Hey guys, I hope you're good. This is like the third time I've tried to film this video, but in between losing the footage or it not being usable, I haven't been able to post it yet. But however this comes out, I am just posting it, so it's something that I wanted to talk about for a little while. I've spoken a load of times about the perception that living on a boat is much cheaper than living in a house or a flat. And in a lot of cases this is true, but I've also warned about other expenses that you come across on a boat that you don't in a house. And that's kind of the theme for the video today, but I want to talk about some of the less obvious hidden costs of living on a boat. I'm sure before we've talked about things like maintenance and your license cost, fuel costs, things like that, that do bring the cost of boat living up a bit more in line with living on land. But there are certain things that I don't think I've ever seen discussed when talking about the hidden costs of boat life. So I'm going to cover a few of them today. It's not an exhaustive list, but let's dive right into it. So the first thing that I'll talk to you about is travel. Clearly one of the big advantages of having a boat is that you can take it on holiday with you. You don't have to go through all the stress of packing, travelling to the airport, forgetting everything, not being sure if you've got enough clothes, or, you just take your home with you and go on holiday. But what if you want to travel somewhere a bit further afield and you can't bring your boat? This is one of the times that living on the water can become a little bit difficult. If you want to have a nice foreign holiday for a couple of weeks, then you need to figure out what to do with your boat. If you're a continuous cruiser, you need to move your boat every 2 weeks. But if you're going on holiday and you're going to be out of the country for more than 2 weeks, then obviously what you're going to do with your boat. And some of the options that you would have is to get somebody else to move it. And if you haven't got someone that you trust who would do that for you for free, then you would have to pay for a professional boat mover to move your boat. Or if you didn't feel comfortable leaving your boat unoccupied for a couple of weeks, or even a shorter time, if that's your choice, if you don't want it to be obvious that the boat is empty, then you would have to put it into a marina. And prices can vary quite a lot depending on the area, but I think it's fair to say an average you should be budgeting might be about £20 a night. So if you're going on holiday for a couple of weeks, then the added cost of that will soon build up, and it's something that you need to factor into any travel plans that you've got. And even if you've got a permanent mooring, then if you're going to be leaving your boat for an extended time, you're going to need to make sure that somebody is there to check on it. 99.9% of marinas are really, really friendly, and you'll get to know people. People will come and check up on your boat. But I know that it's a concern for a lot of people, especially people that might be living overseas and keep a boat in the UK, and for their own peace of mind they will pay somebody to come and check on their boat regularly. So that's another thing that you need to consider and potential extra cost. The next thing that I want to talk about on this similar kind of theme is transport. If you continuously cruise but you need to travel into work every day, then the cost of that is going to end up being more expensive than if you are living in one place. If you're a regular commuter, then you can benefit from season ticket for your travel. So it will be a ticket from between place A where you live and place B where you work, and if you buy the ticket over a longer period of time, then the cost is lower than buying an individual ticket each day. But if you're going to be in a different area every couple of weeks, then it's not going to be possible for you to get a longer term season ticket, so you will be buying a lot more individual and shorter term tickets, so your commuting costs will be a lot higher than somebody who is living in a permanent place. The next thing that I want to talk about is post. One of the most common questions that boaters get is, do you have an address and how do you get post? And if you're living in a permanent mooring, then that's not a problem, you will have access to post. But if you're a continuous cruiser, then that can be a bit more difficult. Depending on how much post you get and the type of things that you're receiving and how important it is to you, you may have to spend money on a dedicated postal service, whether that be something like a PO box, or there are a few small companies that cater specifically to boats and will deliver your post for you, but that is another extra cost that some boaters will incur. And the next thing I want to talk to you about is shopping. Shopping can be a lot more expensive when you're living on a boat. In a house you can go to the supermarket, do a big weekly shop and take advantage of all of the offers there, bulk buying, buy one get one frees, things like that. But on a boat there's just not the storage space, so you can't do a lot of bulk buying. You have to buy smaller things, which often end up being a lot more expensive. The majority of boaters won't have access to a vehicle, so you'll have to be buying things that you can carry yourself and take home. And it does get more expensive having to go and make lots of small trips than if you were just to do one big weekly or monthly shop. And also a lot of boats don't have a freezer. Many of them don't even have a fridge, so the type of foods that you're buying are quite different, and buying more fresh food could potentially be more expensive than being able to buy things with a longer shelf life that you can freeze. And another thing that people don't ever mention is along the lines of shopping. That's shopping for furniture. If you want to remodel your boat, brighten things up, maybe some new shelves, a new sofa, a new bed, that is not as easy as if you were living in a house where you can just go down to your nearest cheap furniture shop or browse online and just buy the first thing that you like the look of. You need to consider how you're going to get the furniture onto the boat, the dimensions of it, and a lot of furniture and fittings will be bespoke to a boat, and again that will increase the cost. Even things like curtain rails, for example, will be a lot more expensive on a boat compared to in a house because they're just not standard. So they cost more to produce and they cost more to buy. And also like fixtures and your fittings, televisions, fridges, other things that you need to run on 12 volts will be more expensive than your standard household appliances. And again, going back to post, getting things delivered to your boat is going to be more of a logistical problem than if you have an address, so potentially delivery costs could be more expensive than if you were living in a house, or you may end up even having to rent a van to bring the things yourself, so potentially it's more expensive than living in a house. And another thing that's a lot more difficult and potentially a lot more expensive, and people don't talk about this a lot, is insurance. If you do own a car or another vehicle, then as a continuous cruiser it can be very, very difficult to get insurance for your vehicle. And even I've heard that people who live on permanent moorings, once they tell their vehicle insurance that they're living on a boat, a lot of companies won't insure you, or the premiums are a lot higher than you would have been paying when living on land. And likewise, bicycle insurance is very difficult to acquire and can be a lot more expensive, and it's the same with contents insurance as well. I think when people are factoring costs of living on a boat, they might think about the cost of insuring the boat itself, but not some of the other things that you would have to get insurance for as well, which potentially could be more expensive than you are used to or that you've planned for. The next thing that I want to talk about is internet. There are lots of different options for mobile internet when you are living on a boat, but quite often they can be more expensive than you would be paying for broadband in your house. A lot of mobile internet providers have quite low usage caps on them, and if you're heavily relying on the internet for your work or for your pleasure, then you're going to end up having to spend more money than you would do if you were living on land. The final thing, it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but not completely, and that's the extra cost you're going to have to pay to replace things that you end up dropping in the canal. If you can find me a boater who hasn't dropped their keys, their glasses, their mobile phone, something else in the canal, then I will be shocked. And unfortunately, certain people seem to do this more often than others. So if you are thinking about moving on to a boat, then perhaps factor in the potential of having to buy a new phone a couple of times a year once you've dropped yours into the canal. But hopefully that doesn't happen to you. Okay, that's the end of this video. I am sure there are so many more things that I haven't covered. Tell me in the comments below what was the most unexpected cost that you incurred when you moved on to your boat. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I will see you all again very, very soon. Bye for now.